So, good morning, everybody. Can I get some confirmation that, Brian, you can hear me? Judy Macharia, can you hear us? Just before we start, let me get some confirmation by writing, please. Anybody who can hear me? Brian? Okay, then I believe we can start. And therefore, this morning, let me take this opportunity to welcome everybody. First of all, let me thank you all, my colleagues, for having joined in through KNet, and the students who are already online. We are going to make a presentation in two parts, and today we are going to cover topics number 8 and number 9. So the first session, topic 8, will be covered by myself, and my name is Hezron Mogaka. And before we start, let us pray for the session. Our Heavenly Father, we come unto you this morning, Father, with thanksgiving. We thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to interact. We also thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to learn. For the students who are already hooked in and those who are on their way to connecting, Father, we ask that you continue guiding them. As we near the exams, Father, we pray for our students, give them confidence and give them good memories. We pray all this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen. So today we are here going to cover topic number 8, academic writing, 22nd November 2021. And as I've said, my name is Hezron Mogaka, one of the facilitators for this particular session. And let us first of all identify the main objectives for this particular session. And as I've already said, topic number 9 will be covered by Emisi again today, immediately after this one. And then next week, we will cover topics number 10 and number 11. And from there, we believe that you'll be prepared enough to undertake your final exam. And it's our prayer that all of you will make it. And therefore, for today's session, that is topic number 8, academic writing 1. It has got 4 key objectives that we would like to achieve. The first objective is to define academic writing and explain its importance in communication. Objective number 2 is to introduce the learners to good academic writing principles. Objective number 3 is to demonstrate to the learners the basic structures of an academic piece of writing. And objective number 4 is to explain to the learners situations that trigger academic writing. So those are going to be our 4 objectives that we intend to cover. And subsequent to that, there are 4 main expected lesson outcomes. And let me just sensitize you on one thing, that if you want to assess yourself against your level of understanding of any topic or the entire unit, the best way is to assess yourself against the expected outcomes, because that is where change is expected. That is what we are going to test you on. And therefore, the 4 expected changes that we expect in you by the end of the topic we expect that you will be able to explain what academic writing is about and its relevance in communication. Number two, you should be able to articulate good academic writing principles. Number three, we expect you to be able to plan for and draft pieces of academic writing. And the last outcome we expected from you as learners is you should be able to articulate the situations that trigger academic writing. And therefore, those are the changes that we expect in you. Those are the learning experiences that we expected from you by the end of the topic. That is learners who are able to explain what academic writing is about and how important it is in communication. Learners who are able to articulate good academic writing principles. Learners who are able to plan for and draft pieces of academic writing. And learners who are able to articulate the situations that trigger academic writing. So to start with, we are giving you an exercise. I'm sure you also have other exercises in your portal that I believe you have undertaken as a way of self-assessment. And this one, we are calling it exercise number 8. And here it reads, Embu County Governor has requested a group of first-year students from the University of Embu to provide a well-researched advice on priority investment necessary to avert the consequences of climate change as predicted by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. On this basis, draft the advice. Just 1 minute. On this basis, draft the advice for the governor's consideration. So this is considered to be one piece of academic writing that you can practice that must be well structured. And the question is very clear. We believe that out of your experience, out of the news that you listen almost on a daily basis, climate change is real. And it's predicted that with the time, the risks are and the consequences are going to be more severe. Therefore, this is a piece of work that you can do and write an advice, well researched to the governor on what the governor should invest in as a priority to minimize those risks and to reduce the impact. So that is exercise number 8. You need to do it at your own time. Let's get to writing skills. As I've said, I'm only doing the introduction part of it, and my colleague MSc will pick up from where I'll conclude, and then from there, you should be prepared enough to actually start practicing on how to be good writers, particularly within your university cycles. We ought to understand, and I think this was introduced right from the beginning, that writing is an important skill in the communication process. If you all recall, it was noted that communication is a continuous process, and there are very many ways of communication. And therefore, writing is one of the most important communications avenues. And therefore, it's very important, irrespective of your academic program, that you continue sharpening your writing skills. Whether you are taking the law, whether you are taking finance, whether you are doing education, writing will continue being part of you. And therefore, writing is expression of language in a form of symbols. That is, it can be in terms of letters, it can be in terms of words, it can be in terms of sentences, on a service or in an electronic way, like what we are doing. Basically, the kind of communication we are doing at the moment is both in terms of verbal, and we are also writing, because I'm sure you can follow our PowerPoint presentations, which of course are being electronically transmitted, but we have taken time to write specific messages that we would like you to get. And the primary purpose of writing, as we have said, is communication. Writing enables you to pass a feeling from the writer to the intended recipient. For example, it will be writing from student to student, which is communication through a written note, for example, on a scheduled class, which may read as, colleagues, tomorrow's class on CCS 101 will start at 7 a.m. in Charter Hall. That is a very powerful message that is coming from, let's say, student leader, the rest of the students, on a very particular message, which is in a written form, that there is an intended class that is starting tomorrow, and the subject, the class is on CCS 101, and it's starting at 7 a.m. in Charter Hall. From this statement, one of the things that we can see, the communication is very clear, that this message is going to colleagues. That means it's from a student to a student. And here, the writing says that the scheduled time is tomorrow, and it also goes ahead to specify on the unit, which is CCS 101, and it indicates clearly that it is starting at 7 a.m. in Charter Hall. Sorry. So it leaves no point of confusion. It states where the note is coming from. It indicates clearly the date of the day. It indicates the unit. It indicates the timing, and also the venue that is of adequate. It could be from university administration to students, which reads, you are required to complete your student director evaluation form before accessing the exam card. And I'm very sure that this message has already been communicated to you as students, that you are supposed to fill in the forms which are on student director evaluation before you get your examination card. Many of you are still wondering what an examination card is. For those who don't know what it is, we ask you to go to your respective departmental chairs so that they can advise you further on how to access that, because you will not be allowed to get into the examination room without your examination card and without your student card. So those are two items that you must carry before you get into the examination room. So the purpose of writing is basically to communicate, to pass a certain message. The other issue that we need also to understand about writing is that it's a lifelong skill. What does that mean? It's a skill that you need to develop that will be able to take you through different stages of your lifetime. And when used clearly and properly, it can help you express ideas convincingly to others. So this is very important, that you understand, first of all, that writing is a lifelong skill. I'm sure you started writing the moment you were introduced, probably at least when you were introduced to your schooling life, and you are still writing. The only thing that changes is that the kind of writing that you do may change from one phase of life to another one. Then what does good writing do? It enables you to express your ideas in a convincing way to others. And others here could mean your colleagues as students. It could mean your supervisors. It could mean your facilitators, or in future life, it could mean your colleagues at your places of work, or your supervisors at your places of work. Therefore, it's critical that you don't take lightly this skill that we are trying to ingrain into you. Because I'm sure the students who are doing law, for example, you will be doing 2 units I think next semester and the subsequent semesters, on particularly writing and communicating legal issues. And as we have said, writing is for all the professions, and that is where we are offering this particular unit to all the students. Writing can also determine your success at the university and professional life after that. I think one key word that we need to underline is the issue of success. I'm very sure that your goal of coming to the university or to enter into academic life is to be successful. And therefore, one of the key determinants in terms of achieving that goal is in terms of your writing skills. And therefore, we still urge you that at this particular stage, when you are in the university, you should be able to continuously sharpen your writing skills. And then from there, you'll be able to express yourself to your facilitators that you are worth getting an A in whichever subject that you are doing. You may be having the best answers, but if you cannot communicate those answers, you may be having the best ideas, but if you are not able to communicate those ideas, they are as good as being useless. In one way or another, your good ideas, your good answers must be properly communicated in such a way that the recipient is able to be convinced and to understand what you're doing. Therefore, writing can determine your success both at the university and at professional life after that. There is a popular saying by Ray Bradbury, which says, "You fail only if you stop writing." Now, I link this fail to the issue of success, and you all agree that the reason why you are in the university is to be successful. And therefore, if you want to do the opposite of that, that is failing, the only way you can do that is to stop writing. And therefore, you make sure that you do the converse of this. So we can also rewrite this by saying you become successful if you don't stop writing as one of the parameters of your success. Another quote which I would like to tell you is, just write every day of your life. Read intensely. And this is another issue that you have already been taken through a topic on reading skills. They are like Siamese twins. You cannot write properly if you don't read intensely. Therefore, the two are closely linked, the writing and the reading. And that's why this writer still Ray says that just write every day of your life. That means that take notes of your life every day. For example, every morning that you wake up, write down your plan of activities for the day. In your academic life, what you intend to do. That is part of writing. You can communicate that to your supervisors. You can communicate that to your best friends and tell them that this is the way I've planned my day. And then every evening, write down again what you have achieved. That's a very simple way of actually succeeding and also still continually sharpening your writing skills. Then see what happens. Most of my friends who are put on that diet have very pleasant careers. So here, I like this expression that writing on daily basis is a diet. Just the way you may be fond of nyama choma, maybe takeaway chips, whatever it is. Therefore, the same way you desire to have your best meal every day, the best thing you can do to yourself is to desire to continue sharpening your writing skills on daily basis. Because we have already said it's a lifelong skill that will be able to determine your success. Finally, somebody by the name Samuel Johnson said, what's written without effort is in general read without pleasure. Or what's written without effort is in general read without pleasure. That means that you also don't write for the sake of it. As we are saying, writing is part of communication. You like people to be interested in what you are writing. You like your academic supervisor to be interested in what you are writing. And that is the way you start accumulating good marks. So as we continue the writing skills, whatever form of writing, effective writing involves the proper use of words. What we are saying here as an introductory part of it is still, we have said that writing is one way of communicating. Writing is a skill that you need to continuously develop. But what is also most important, another description we need to have here, is that it must be effective writing. Effective writing means that your recipient is able to understand and be convinced by what you are communicating. And therefore, effective writing involves the proper use of words, sentences. I think Kamau Esther, can you
food on that diet have very pleasant careers.
Kamau Esther, can you mute your mic? Thank you. So it involves the proper use of words, sentences, punctuations, and paragraphs to pass across messages. And this is Messi is going to take you through on how to communicate effectively in terms of writing proper paragraphs. There must be a logical flow, and there must be interconnectedness between statements and paragraphs. So writing is just not, it's not just writing. It must be effective writing. And we have said that the characteristics of good writing is that there must be proper use of words, there must be proper use of sentences, well punctuated, and paragraphs that should be able to pass a message from one individual, or from you in this case, to the recipient. And there must be a logical flow, and there must be interconnectedness between statements and paragraphs. So writing formally in English is more than just choosing the right words in the right order. Using the right punctuations is critical, particularly in academic writing. As you continue sharpening your skills in this, you realize that punctuations are extremely important. The legal experts here in this platform can tell you that a simple comma could mean a lot, and it could have a totally different meaning. Therefore, the punctuations are very important. Therefore, writing, we can say that takes different forms. As we are saying, writing is part of communication. It may be in the form of a single word. For example, somebody telling you, come. Somebody has already communicated, go, stop. There is that powerful communication in just a single word. And I'm sure you are used to all these words, depending on circumstances. Writing can also take the form of a single paragraph, or it can take the form of several paragraphs interconnected. It can be in form of an essay. It can be in form of a short paper. It can be in form of a report. For example, you have gone to the field and you have come back and your supervisor expects you to write a report. Or you have been listening to a lesson and your facilitator wants you to write a small report on how the lecture went on. It could be in form of a letter, addressed it to your colleagues, addressed it to your parents, addressed it to your vice chancellor, addressed to the president of the Republic of Kenya, and communicating a specific message, or it could be in form of a memo. So the form of writing is determined or informed by the purpose. Therefore, this is very critical that anytime you start writing, there must be a specific purpose why you are writing. So those are the forms that writing can form, right from a simple message of come in a single word to fairly complicated, probably, for example, a short paper, which can be an academic paper. And we are going to see if, for example, it's an academic paper, what form it takes. But as we have said, the writing is largely informed by the purpose of the message. And therefore, let's unpack this, what we call as academic writing. It is something that you have been doing almost every day since you came to this university. And academic writing is a formal style of writing used in universities, research organizations, and scholarly publications. And I would like for this particular case to take that the work that you are doing here, you may take it lightly, but what you are doing is basically academic writing. You are in a university, you are in an academic environment, and therefore most of the writing that you do, if you want to use your time properly, must be academic related. And that's why some of us find it offensive that we create a platform, but the kind of things that you do there, of course, is writing, but that's nothing to do with your academic life. Some of you are selling items. It's good you can hustle on the sides, but then within the university environment, you must focus on the purpose, why that platform has been created and what you'll be writing on. Therefore, when it comes to academic writing, there are a few characteristics that are ingrained in academic writing. First of all, you know that there's a purpose for that academic writing. Either you are answering a question, or you are taking an exercise, or you are writing a memo on behalf of your students. And wherefore, what is expected of an academic writing, it must be clear, it must be concise, it must be focused, it must be structured, and it must be backed up by evidence. Now, let me just focus on number one, the clarity, where it's supposed to be concise, focused, and structured. Many of you, when you are answering questions, you don't take this into consideration. But our advice from today is that when you are going to be faced, because this is going to be your first exam in a university, these are the clear issues that you must focus on. You must first of all understand the question, which is going to be elaborated further by MEC. And therefore your response, which is an academic writing, must be very clear, that even yourself, when you read what you have written, you know that there's clarity. And therefore nobody is going to interpret it in any other way than the way you intended it to be interpreted. It must be concise. That must be focused in such a way that if you are asked to explain the factors that influence listening, you must underline that word explain, and your focus is on explaining the factors that influence listening. If it's a question on the factors that probably enhance your writing skills, you must focus on explaining, and then it must be structured. What do we mean by structured? One of the issues that I would also like to advise you as you get into this serious academic environment, always structure your answers in such a way that when you are answering a question, it's important that you have a title or a subtitle to that question. Many of you start putting answers without even caring about whether it has a subtitle or not. And then from there, if it's a question on discussion, break it down, understand what does it take to answer a question on discussion. Then structure it in your mind. Then put down the points that you want to use to demonstrate that you understand the question. If it's a question on explaining, then you should be able to structure it that it comes out as a response that is explained. If it's a question on listing, and we shall avoid as much as possible to ask you to list, because listing is a level for primary and probably secondary schools. And those are the key points that you need to note when you are making responses to your questions as you'll be getting into this academic life. There must be clarity, they must be concise, they must be focused, must be structured. But when you are writing, for example, essays, it must be backed up by evidence. And therefore, to aid the reader's understanding, that is why we needed that evidence. And one other issue is that try to be simple and not complex. And you don't require the use of long sentences and complicated vocabularies. In academic life, you want to communicate a message, and the best way that you can communicate messages, one principle is in terms of simplicity. That means you don't need to sound too complex. You don't need to write a statement that's long winding. Within the statement, it has an introduction. Within the statement, it has a discussion. Within the statement, it has even a conclusion and a recommendation. Therefore, that's why you need to practice on your writing skills. And the best way to sharpen your writing skills is to read a lot. So in any given situation, what I would like you to take note of, particularly in terms of answering your questions, is these issues. Make sure you are concise, You are clear, you are focused, and you must always structure your responses. That is the best way of writing. So the simplest, there are many types of academic writing, and the simplest is where it's descriptive, and its purpose is to provide facts or information. And this one, we are taking the case of a summary of an article or a report of the results of an experiment, the reading habits, for example, the reading habits of first year CCS 101 students. We could ask you to, even in the main exam, for example, to write a small report on what you believe the writing habits of the first year CCS 101 students are. And in that case, we have said you need to get the title to it, you need to be clear, you need to understand the purpose of writing that. Other academic writing may also take the form of to identify, write a report, to record, to summarize, to synthesize, to analyze, to evaluate, to discuss, and even define. But for the purpose of just telling you that at university level, we shall avoid asking you questions on identification. But one issue that you must understand is that when we ask you, for example, to discuss the factors that influence one's listening skills, ideally you must identify them, but we will not ask you to identify directly. If it comes like that, it is by default. But ideally, you must be able to identify those factors. First of all, list them and then either explain, or you analyze them, or you synthesize them, or you evaluate them, or you discuss them. The other term that is also becomes part of your work, but we may not be able to ask you, is to define. We are not going to ask you to define what writing skills are, but you must understand it. You must internalize it, that you are able to say that writing skills involves A, B, C, D before you answer the question, because then in that case, it demonstrates that you understand what writing skills are. So academic writing takes different forms. And here are the different stages of academic writing, which we call as the levels, the Bloom's taxonomy, that's what we call it, or what you are likely to be tested on, because for almost the large proportion of your time in the university, your academic writing will be focused on being trained on how to have the best of the skills within each of your areas. And the best way that we are going to test whether you have internalized what you have been taken through is using this pyramid here. The first question that I'm sure you are all tested at a very low level is remembering. And very many of students fall into this temptation of cramming. This is one issue that I would like to tell you, or would like to tell you that as people who are getting already into the academic world, you avoid just cramming, because this is whereby it involves recognizing and recording facts, where you know that, for example, Kenya's population is 47 million. That is remembering. But what are the implications of that? What do you understand by that population? So the lowest level of testing or academic writing is where you can be asked to just remember. And that is where we avoid issues like lists, because listing involves mainly in terms of just recalling, in terms of remembering the long list of the factors that influence ABCD. The second level from remembering, we would like you to understand all the concepts and internalize them that you are being taken through. That means that understanding what the facts mean. For example, if you are told that the population of Kenya is increasing at the rate of 3%, you need to understand, what does that mean? What does it mean in terms of our pressure on the environmental resources? What does it mean in terms of our food systems? So it has a lot of implications. So that is a slightly advanced level, and this is what we are trying now to introduce you to. The second level of academic writing, and whereby we shall also test you, is in terms of applying the facts, the rules, the concepts, and the ideas. And this is whereby we are put in a situation, for example, like the question that I've given you here. It's more of application up to the point of analysis. For example, we tell you, yes, there is a climate change, and the advice is in terms of we need to invest in the Big Four agenda. I hope you all know what Big Four agenda is all about. You need to understand what are those, how do you apply those facts which are within the Big Four agenda. The other level, as we go up the pyramid, it gets more complex, and those are the levels that we shall be asking you, and I'm sure in your different units, that is what you'll be tested against. That's in terms of the analysis, breaking down information into component parts. And this one you can be given, for example, a passage, and then you analyze the meaning of that passage in terms of your own life, in terms of your colleagues, in terms of the general population. Therefore, that is another area that you need to focus on. Then the second last in terms of complexity is to do an evaluation. And this is judging the value of information or ideas that you have been given. So here you can be given the passage, for example, or you have been given the results, and then you look at it and make a serious interrogation in terms of what is the real value of this. And then the other one, which is very important, is in terms of creativity. That is being creative, that is being critical, and that is whereby you combine parts to make a new whole. And this is very important in your lives. Other than writing skills, one of the areas that we will urge you to develop is in terms of being creative. And that is what makes the difference between a successful student and the one who is not successful. So this is the hierarchy of testing that is done in the academic cycles, from remembering, I'm telling you that one, forget about it. You should now focus more on understanding, on applying, on the analysis, the evaluation, and being creative. So let me give you an example. This is almost like my second last slide. What an example of an academic writing may look like. It has to be structured. For example, it's a 3-page paper on class attendance of first-year students taking CCS 101. Because you people, some of you have been attending on and off, some of you have been very consistent, some of you have not even attended, and they may not even be able to get this message from our records. And remember, if you don't attain 67 or 68% of the attendance, forget about this unit being counted as part of your academic credentials. Therefore, you have to receive the unit. So if you were asked to prepare a short paper on that, of course, it must have a title. And with time, we are going to understand how do you craft a title. It must have an introduction background. It must have the purpose of the article. It must have a discussion of it, focusing on the attendance trends. It must have conclusions. You may conclude that almost 50% of the students don't even attend. Then you must make recommendations. Then how do we improve the attendance of first year CCS 101 communication skills, particularly when they have just reported? You may need to give references. References, as we have said, are any other materials that you have relied on in terms of backing up that the work you are doing is credible enough. Maybe it has been done somewhere else. That is where you have your references. And then you can have the appendices, and these are other documents that you can attach. For example, the attendance sheets. So basically, this is what is a piece of academic paper will look like. Then finally, when it comes to references, in academic writing, it's a standard practice to make reference to what other scholars have written, or other persons in the same area have written about various subjects of your interest. And this is very important, particularly when you come to the law students. That is when they say that the presidency was set in reference to this judgment that was made somewhere in India, in reference to this one that was made in Nigeria. That is why those references are very important. In all academic work, it's important to refer to what other scholars have done, because it gives credibility to your work. And therefore, the essence of having all these references is by citing them and making reference to the authors and their works in an orderly manner for 3 reasons: to let the reader know whose idea you are using or you are relying on. And that's why we have theories. When you start advancing in terms of your academic life, you realize that you are going to depend on, you have to invoke a number of theories. to enable your reader to check your information, whether it's credible or not credible, and to provide information for your reader. Also, that is important. My last piece of advice, this comes as what we call as a wise woman's or wise man saying, and this is a take-home advice message for you all students, that the future only belongs to those who have the ability to foresee it and sacrifice the pleasures of the present in order to gain it. So you students, you must be able to see how does the future look like. You should be able to bring the future into the present situation and take the present situation into the future. What does it mean when you don't attend classes? What does it mean when you don't revise your notes? Secondly, everything of a lasting value is highly demanding. And one of the things that you need to understand if you have to be academically successful, it is something that is going to be of lasting value and it's highly demanding. And greatness is not a product of convenience. As a great writer, as a great academician, it will not come out of convenience. The greatness of tomorrow begins with the sacrifice of today. And that's why we urge you that if it is time for you to be online, listen and take short notes, because you have already been taken through on taking short notes, because that is how the greatness of tomorrow begins, by sacrificing today and ensuring that you are not just with your friends chatting, but you are seriously following the discussions we have. And then the pain of knowing you had the opportunity at a point in life to change the course of your life is the greatest pain of regret to live with. And this is very important, where you have to understand that we will not like to get you people getting into regretting later that I wish I took my studies seriously. So that is a piece of advice that we are giving you that you need to take very seriously. And up to this point, I say thank you, asante sana, merci. So I believe that if there are any questions, you are already noting them in the public chat. And I'm sure Dr. Moke, the coordinator of the unit, is picking them up. So at this particular moment, I will like that we take another 2 minutes to mount the second presentation, which is going to be led by Enise. So as the presentation loads up, let me encourage those who have not collected their scripts, please come and correct your scripts because there are quite a number here. We have almost like 40% have not been collected. And then secondly, we will plan in the course of the week. I'm sure it's going to be communicated by Dr. Moke on when we are giving the second, the makeup cut for those who are not able to attend to it with convincing reasons. So at this particular moment, I hand over to my colleague, Enise, to continue with the academic writing. Thank you so much, and continue having a productive listening.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Mogaka, for that elaborate presentation. I hope that whatever advice we give you students on this platform finds ears to listen. And for example, this morning, I think we had a lot of advice that we should take home in as far as this unit is concerned. As we conclude this unit, there is a lot we've told you. There are a lot of skills that we have inculcated, and I hope that we are listening. I hope that we are taking them so that we shall have a smooth sailing in the next 4 years. Now, I'll continue from where my colleague has left. I would like to look at the paragraph and the essay, specifically argument essay or what we refer to as argumentative essays. And to start with, let me look for the next slide. Be patient. Patient. Thank you. Sorry for that. To start with, the topic objectives are as follows: to be able to explain the features of an effective paragraph. And number 3, you should be able to discuss the various types of paragraphs in an academic essay. And number 4, which I think it couples as an objective and also as an outcome, we should be able to write a good argument essay. So when we talk about a paragraph, why is it important to discuss a paragraph? A paragraph is a very important component of any writing. We have just discussed academic essays or academic writings. There can't be any writing. There can't be a writing that you do without paragraphing. Now, we can draw an analogy between a paragraph and a building. We can compare paragraphs in a writing to building blocks that you put one upon another in order to come up with a good building. So in writing, academic writings, we ought to paragraph. And a paragraph, we have like a building. I would like us to have the picture of a building. A building as a foundation. It has the body made up of various courses. And at the top there, we have somewhere where we put, okay, I don't have the technical language, but we have somewhere, something we call the lintel, where we put bars and we're able to tie up our building, and we are able to strengthen the building. So when we look at an academic essay or any kind of good writing, we have those 3 parts. And we put our paragraphs one upon another until we are able to come up with a good writing. Now, when we talk about a paragraph, it has its own internal structure. And when we look at a paragraph, what is a paragraph? In an essay, this is a paragraph expresses a complete thought or related thoughts and ideas. And a paragraph, in a paragraph, as you set out to write, you think about the ideas that you want to put down, about what you are setting out to say, and you divide those ideas into various paragraphs that you'd wish to have. And I'm saying that a paragraph has its own internal structure. What do we look for in a paragraph? Every paragraph should have what we call a topic sentence. And this is the topmost sentence. This is the opening statement, and it carries the day. it carries the main idea of the paragraph. And then after, so if I want to know how many ideas you are presenting in any work, I'll look at every paragraph. I'll look at the topic sentence. I'll look at the first sentence, and that is what we refer to as the topic sentence. It carries the idea, the main idea. That is where now you concentrate your idea, and for the rest of the body of the paragraph, you will support what you have said in the opening statement. We call it a topic sentence. And then after the topic sentence, we have supporting sentences. Now, this is where now you set out to support what you have said in the first sentence. In the opening statement, you present the details, you present facts, you give examples, you contrast, you compare, you show cause, you show effects, so that you support the main idea. And then after that, there should be a way of tying up the paragraph. Now, the concluding sentence sums up the paragraph's main idea or what has been said. So this now, there must be a well-written paragraph has to have a topic sentence, and then the topic sentence has to be supported with details, facts, examples, illustrations, comparing, contrasting, and after that, you draw the paragraph into a logical conclusion that you put what we call a concluding sentence. Next, let's look at the features of an effective paragraph. When we are writing, your work has to have paragraphs. What are some of the features that are characterized in good paragraph? One, it should be complete. Now, when you are set to write an academic essay, when you are set to write something, you have the ideas that you want to put across, and therefore, in every paragraph, every idea, you have to plan so that every paragraph has to be complete. What is it that you want your audience to know? What is it that you want your readers to know? So in that paragraph, ensure that it is complete. Make sure that you elaborate, you give illustrations, you give backup information that makes your paragraph complete, so that when you look at your work, you don't have hanging ideas, they are complete. So bring your paragraph to completeness. Then number two, your paragraph has to be unified. By this we mean that in a paragraph, we are saying that a paragraph presents a complete idea. So you ensure that the ideas that you put together in that paragraph hold it together. They are unified. You do not bring in extraneous material or things that are unrelated to what you want to say. So you plan out your paragraph and you put ideas that are related together, and you ensure that those are the ones that you express in that particular paragraph, so that there is what we call unification, so that your ideas are unified. And then number two, there is a paragraph, and good paragraph has to be orderly. It has to have some kind of sequence. Now, when you put or when you group ideas that are related together, that are expressing a single aspect in a paragraph, ensure that there is flow. Ensure that you don't have some ideas that you bring in to break what you are saying. That if you have to explain something, you are consistent in explaining, you give your points in a manner that those that are related are closely related. You put them together so that after you only bring in any new ideas after you are through with what is related. What is related comes together and as a way of following each other in an orderly manner or in a sequential manner. And number four, another important characteristic or feature of a paragraph is that it has to be coherent. This means that you have to have some flow. Ideas have to flow into each other. One sentence has to flow into each other. There are no breaks. So we do this by use of connectors. We have sentence connectors. You do this by connecting your words. You do this by use of even pronouns to refer back reference words so that there is some coherence. You bring about some flow. We don't have ideas breaking. We have some kind of flow in your work. So we are saying that a good paragraph has to be complete. So that idea that you set out to explain or to describe has to be complete, has to be unified, has to be orderly, and then there has to be coherence. Next, let's look at the category of paragraphs. At the beginning of this presentation, I said that we can compare a well-written essay to a maybe built stone building, which has a foundation. It has some body made up of several courses. And at the top there is something we call a lintel. Now, a good or a well-written essay is written in paragraphs, and we have different types of paragraphs. One, we have what we call introduction paragraphs. Like we have said earlier on, every work has to have an introduction. Now, when we talk about an introduction paragraph, we say that this is a paragraph that announces to the reader the main purpose of an essay. I compare this to the foundation. You know, the foundation of any building, it is strong, it is made up of very strong stones. It has some lintel bars down there because this is what is meant to hold the building together. Similarly, in any good writing, the introductory paragraph or the introductory paragraph has to be interesting. It has to be attractive to be able to capture the reader's attention, because it is from there that you draw the attention of your readers. So if your introduction paragraph is an appealing, your introduction paragraph is an interesting, your readers or even your listeners, if it's you have something that you are speaking on and you do not capture your audience at the part of the introduction, you lose them, or they will lose interest in what you are saying or in what you have written about. So this paragraph has to be interesting. It has to capture the reader's attention. And in this also paragraph, you can take this paragraph, the introduction paragraph, to provide any necessary background knowledge on the subject of discussion. So this is where you give background information, you give information that you want to capture. You capture the idea, you capture the day, you create the mood of the day in the introduction. So whatever you want whatever mood you want your readers to adopt, you cultivate it from the introduction. So the introduction is very, very important. It is the most important part of your essay because it captures the attention of your readers. Now, and number two, we have what we call the body paragraphs. The body paragraphs, these are several, depending on what you are writing on. And this is where now we develop in detail the main idea. Here you can provide illustrations in the body paragraphs. This is where you compare or even contrast. This is where you give cause and effect. This is where you provide the facts. This is where you provide the statistics of whatever. This is where you now build on what you have introduced. This is where you give the details. The few details are given in several paragraphs, knowing that every paragraph has to carry a single or a complete idea, a single complete idea made up of the parts that we've already discussed. And then we have what we call the concluding paragraph, or maybe the concluding paragraphs. And these ones are the ones that now bring your essay home to rest by signaling the discussion has been completed. Here we find you saying that in conclusion, or to conclude, or finally, you're able to signal, or you are able to signpost to your readers, or if it is spoken to your listeners, that you are coming to the conclusion of what you are saying. So in this concluding paragraph, here you can do a concluding or a conclusion by restating your thesis statement. You can give predictions here. You can give warnings here. You can recap what you are saying. You can also give stuttering statistics in this part of the concluding paragraph, so that in every well-written essay, these parts have to come out very, very clearly. There has to be a paragraph that where you are introducing your work. It must be captivating enough to attract the audience attention. Then we have several paragraphs that we call the body paragraphs, and then we have a concluding paragraph that is able to summarize or to recap, to give a recap of what you have been saying in your essay. Next, my next task was to look at one type of an academic essay that we refer to as an argument essay. We have other types of essays that we haven't looked at. We have some that we refer to as narrative essays, where maybe you give an essay to tell a story, to narrate an event of how, why, when something happens. We have other essays like the persuasive essays, where you set out to influence your audience towards something, maybe an advertisement, or maybe something, people to see things from your point of view. We also talked of descriptive essays, but in this setup, we are going to, in this session, we shall concentrate our energies to argument essay. We are going to look at what an argument essay is, and the characteristics and the features of an argument essay. Now, when we talk about an argument essay, what's an argument essay? This involves presentation of reasoning, evidence, and logic in order to convince a reader to accept a particular point of view on a debatable topic. So these are essays that set out to appeal to the reasoning of your readers. And therefore, we say that they are also debates and discussions about a view or ideas, or an idea that has opposing perspectives. So when you have matters to do with morality, when you have matters to do with policy, theory interpretation, or maybe the best way to do something, we carry out the debates or discussions. And here we are set out to appeal to the reasoning of our audience. We are set out to appeal to the reasoning of our readers, to see things from our perspective. So in order for you to do this, then you must give evidence, you must give what is logical, you must convince your readers that what you are saying is truthful, what you are saying is accurate, what you are saying is reliable in an argumentative essay, that they are able to believe you and to see things from your point of view. These argument essays can be formal or informal, and the informal arguments are just the healthy discussions that we normally hold that characterize our daily lives. So we talk on issues, we discuss on issues, and you give your views to people on issues. You want to convince them that this is the way, and some people carry the day. At the end of the day, if they are good at discussing the ideas. So the informal arguments, the informal discussions on topical issues that we hold on a daily basis, we can see them, or we can refer to them as informal arguments. But we also have formal arguments. In a formal argument, you use facts, you use authoritative opinions, you use logic to support a point of view. And here, in a formal argument, you endeavor to appeal to the reader's faculties of reasoning. And here you have to assemble, or you have to parade carefully selected evidence, which may be in terms of statistics, which may be in terms of research findings, or views of experts, in order to convince your readers to a particular, in order to convince your readers to see something from your point of view or from your perspective. Now, let's look at the basic arguments, basic strategies that we use in arguments. One, when you want to make a good argument, number one strategy that we use is making a claim or making a proposition. This is where you present your opinion. This is where you make a statement of your opinion on a particular debate. For example, if you strongly believe in this, or you can make a claim like the COVID-19 pandemic has grounded all world economies. Now, from this claim now, this is the basis of our argument. And then number two, basic strategy is that use supporting reasons and evidence. So here, for you to be able to support this claim, for you to make the world believe that COVID-19 pandemic has grounded all world economies, you must be able to use facts. So you go out on fact-finding mission. You look out for facts on what has been happening on the ground to the world economies. And we have said earlier on, or you have been told even this morning, that should you present the facts, then they have to be accurate. They have to be credible. Then you can also cite case studies. You can also come up with statistics of how many world economies have been grounded. You can come up with examples. You have to give evidence in terms of illustrations, in terms of scenarios that people can see, people can believe in. And then number three, we have a strategy that we call handling counter arguments. This involves acknowledging, accommodating, and meeting opposing points of view. So you must be prepared in an argument essay when you make a proposition to give evidence and reasons so that people are able to buy what you are proposing. And then after that, you should also be prepared to handle counter arguments. So you should be able to acknowledge, you should be able to accommodate, and also to meet opposing viewpoints. Now, let's look at properties of a good argument. A good argument, one, it must be reasonable. Here we mean that you have to appeal to the reason. And for you to appeal to people's reasons or to the reason of your readers, you must give adequate or relevant grounds to support a given position. And the ideas, the facts that you have talked about, the ideas that you come up with, the propositions that you come up with must be without any bias. And if you decide to give facts, the facts have to be accurate. They must not be distorted. Or even if there are other facts, you should not ignore what facts. You should not even bring in an argument. You should not bring in extraneous issues. They must not be brought in, or they are going to dilute the sense of your argument. So whenever you set out to do an argument, then make sure that you are set to appeal to the reason of your readers or to the reason of your listeners by giving them facts, by giving them evidence, by ensuring that you have no prejudice, you do not carry bias, you do not distort the facts that are known, and you do not even ignore or even bring in extraneous material. Number two, argument must appeal to logic. By this we mean that they must not suffer fallacies. These are faulty arguments. You must not bring in. Number three, a good argument is consistent and clear. Here, we have already talked about the clarity. Dr. Mogaka talked about the clarity, said that whatever you set out to talk on, make sure that it is clear. So for you to do this, make sure that your argument does not carry any internal contradictions. Make sure that for you to be clear, that you define your concepts clearly. Make sure that whatever you set out to argue is properly understood. It is clearly understood. Whatever you want to say, you have defined concepts in a manner that makes people to clearly understand what you are arguing on. Also, make sure that your position is clearly understood. State your position and then give evidence to support your argument. And this evidence, the evidence that we normally present, can be in terms of testimony. And when we talk about testimony, these are eyewitnesses of people that have witnessed or experienced something. So when you bring in a testimony, this makes your argument credible because it is from an eyewitness or from someone that has experienced. Or you can even bring in evidence from an authority. So for example, if you are talking about something, if you are talking on COVID-19, you can bring evidence from authorities, from the medics. And when you state that, it is, or from the experts, if you are to quote, if you are dealing with a particular area, bring in the evidence from authorities, from those that have done a lot of research, a lot of information, a lot of information on such. Those experts in a particular field, bring them in, bring their evidence, and it is going to support your argument. Then you can also bring in evidence in terms of statistic evidence, come up with the numbers, real statistics, and these statistics have to be current. Come up with the current statistics on what is happening, the number of people that have died out of COVID-19, the number of businesses that have closed. So come up with statistics. And as you do this, also remember to reference the sources, remember to acknowledge the sources of your evidence in order to make your work credible. So note that in an argument, no irrelevant or inconsequential issues should be brought in. Hearsays have not should not find their way into a good argument. And remember that the weighing of evidence for or against an argument should not be biased, so we should avoid being biased. And then matters of fact, if you have to present the facts, they have to be accurate, they should not be distorted or ignored. So when you write a good argument, ensure that you observe this, making sure that you are appealing. So you intentionally appeal to the reason of your readers using these factors that you have mentioned here. Make sure that you are logical, make sure that you are consistent in facts, you are consistent in ideas, making sure that you are clear in what you are saying, there are no ambiguities, and making sure that there is no prejudice, there is no bias, there are no extraneous matters that are brought into your argument. In summary, what we have said is that in this topic, we have discussed the paragraph. We have said that a paragraph is very, very important in work. No academic work should be written without paragraphs. And when you write paragraphs, decide what paragraphs you want to make your introduction. Come out clearly with a good introduction, and come up with the point that you want to put in your body, the body paragraphs, then come up with the concluding paragraph. So we have also looked at the structure of a paragraph. We have said that in a paragraph, in an essay is made up of paragraphs, but a paragraph also has its own internal structure that is made up of a topic sentence, the supporting sentences, and the clincher statement, the one that ties up or brings the paragraph to a logical conclusion. Then we have looked at features of a good paragraph. We have said that it has to be unified, it has to be coherent, it has to be orderly, yes, and all those features that you have to look for or you have to observe in a paragraph. We have also looked at categories of paragraphs, making sure that in your work, when you look at your work after completing, you are able to see how the layout of your work is made up of introduction, body paragraphs, and then the concluding paragraph. We have also looked at an argument essay, and we have looked at the basic argument strategies, like you make a proposition, then you give evidence, and make sure that then we have also looked at properties of a good argument, appeal to the reason, to the logic, and make sure that you avoid biases and also distorting your information. Now, I think my audience have come to the end of my presentation, and I would like to end at that point and believe that we are going to do good argument essays, do good presentations, write work that has a clear layout of an introduction, the body is clear, and the conclusion is clear. Thank you. Okay. May I ask Dr. Omoke kindly to conclude this session and to give us the way forward? And maybe before I do that, I would like to make an announcement to Group A. We shall be meeting immediately after this in 15 minutes. Let's meet where we normally meet. Good day and God bless you. Dr. Omoke kindly.
So I believe that we have listened diligently. We have followed the two pieces of presentations and discussions. And as we said, we are all preparing you for the exam, and also in terms of improving your writing skills, as we have said, it's a lifelong skill that you need to develop and sharpen. I believe that probably Dr. Moke is following through the YouTube, so she's not able to make any comment, but what we like to encourage you is that revise smartly, revise smart, all your topics that you have covered so far. Next week, we are meeting same time through the platform, and that will be our last session with you, which will be topics number 10 and 11. And then from there, we shall have our concluding remarks and also prayer. As we said earlier, we expect to set up the makeup cut before the end of the week. And so be attentive for those who did not attend. And in the meantime, you are requested to disperse to your respective venues for the tutorials with your facilitators. Thank you, and may God bless you. So I believe then we have come to an end if there are no any other comments, but we have taken note of any issues that you have raised. And as we say, you make sure that you register your attendance by indicating your name and your admission number, because at the end of the day, we are going to do an analysis of your attendance. And you for sure know that if you don't attend a minimum of 67%, then in that case, you count yourself that you have to retake the unit. Thank you. Bye-bye.